Go ahead and get this started. Hey everyone, Danny White here with the Mental Fitness Mastermind podcast presented by mentalfitness.care and the Athlete Mental Health Certification Program, where athletes help athletes defeat mental health challenges in the game of life. Okay, so let me run down what the goal of the mastermind is. The main goal is to bring together a collection of consciousness of current and former athletes, mental health professionals, sports psychologists, key stakeholders within the athlete community to bring together all in one spot so we can solve a complex issue, which is mental health challenges within the athlete community. And so we all, just like every team, it's made up of different positions. We felt like our position was best served as an aggregated content platform. And so that's what we're doing. So we're going to be interviewing all of the people in the, again, athletes, current and former, mental health professionals, business stakeholders, kind of like with the guests that I have on today. And we're going to all try to come together and figure out a solution and help each other. So if you're a mental health professional, you definitely have a position on our team. If you're a sports psychologist or a current or former athlete, you definitely have a position on our team. If you have a brand or a business that centers, your whole world centers around athletes, then you have a position on our team. Okay. So it's pretty simple. That's kind of what it is. And so today we're going to be joined by Corena Hammer of the Yoga Institute. And you guys are going to hear her heart. You're going to hear what she's doing, and you're going to hear how she handles the mental fitness challenges that she faces every day as an athlete. So Corena, welcome. And by the way, if there's some glitches or some freezes or pauses, bear with us. We're just trying to get through this. And so it's technology. I think everyone can understand that. So we're going to try to do the best we can. We'll circle back. And if we try to talk over each other at times, I apologize about that. We're going to do the best we can. But the main thing is we're going to have fun. We're going to cover a serious topic, and we're going to get this, we're going to get everything handled. Okay. So Corena Hammer, take it away.
Hi, Danny. Thanks so much for having me. And if we start talking over each other, I'll talk louder and faster and I will win.
All right. Great. That's awesome. I love it. I'm used to that.
Thanks for having me on, by the way.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Great opportunity. So thank you. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity. This is
awesome.
Great.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So should I introduce myself?
Yeah, go ahead and just, you know, take the reins. Tell us about who you are. Mm-hmm.
I'll give you a little bit of a bio. I was a triathlete and teaching a lot of step and body pump and all that kind of classes. I got something called drove me towards yoga. I never intended to be a yoga teacher. It just kept happening. It was my path, my dharma, my calling. So I kept moving in that direction. And anytime I've tried to get away from it, it's grabbed me by the reins and pulled me back. I opened a yoga studio. I was the first one in the northern Wasatch area. I've trained quite a few of the teachers and the studio owners that are up here at this point. A few years ago, Duke University and their continuing education department hired me. I was their first ever executives, called Nike Accelerate. And I was on staff with MIT professors. It was very intimidating. I was like, Mr. foo-foo energy shit girl. I don't know what I'm doing. And it was very intimidating. So it was a lot of fun. And forward to this time where I now teach psychologists, psychiatrists, and LCSWs about how to use yoga to overcome trauma. Yoga is one of the very few things that we know helps to actually heal trauma. There's no medication for it at this time that can heal it. There's no other therapeutic application that's known to heal trauma yet. So yeah, that's my wheelhouse. Your haunted house is my wheelhouse. So I don't mind going into the trauma realm. I'm good with it. Yeah.
I like that. That's so funny. Yeah. And what did you call yourself with the MIT professors? What did you say? I thought that was hilarious.
Foo-foo yoga shit girl. Yeah. I mean, this professor went through pages of information. I was going to do a visualization. I was just like, hey, on page 77, did you guys get their square root of, and they're all
Oh, that's
Their
hilarious.
documents. I'm like, amazing. It was baptism by fire. I
Oh,
can tell you,
that's
high
so
speed wobble.
that's so funny. That's so funny. So their brain just thinks more technical, doesn't it? It just seems like it. I mean, usually in that specific realm, the brain's a lot more systematic and more technical. So you have to do different techniques to try to work with that mindset versus someone that's coming from an athlete mindset. How's that work?
Well, actually, what Nike does is every 4 years, they pull together the best of their best in each area of their company and pull together 3 different trainings over the course of a year. And they are in charge of developing the next great thing for Nike.
Nice.
And they have somebody there from tech. They have somebody there from shipping in order to say, hey, this is why this isn't going to work. They have somebody there who's from overseeing their Asian markets. They pull in somebody from the marketing department. So all these departments that normally would not be speaking to each other.
Nice.
They problems that might happen, and they develop it in the course of a year. Yeah, it's really cool. And Duke University provides the educators for that. And
That's
I
nice.
just happened to be one of them. It was amazing. Yeah.
Duke, I've done some research with Duke University, and they definitely have been paying attention to the mental health aspect of things and the sports psychology side of things for a while. It's not something that they've just started getting into. I know that, hey, we can't be everything to everyone, and sometimes universities and their teams get kind of bogged down with so much going on that it's easy to overlook something that's not really making a lot of noise. And now with the mental health, and especially athlete mental health, taking the forefront of the headlines, these universities, these high schools, these schools, these corporate businesses, they're going to get involved. They're going to get involved, and they're going to make a difference. And I'm very confident in that. But I just wanted to give a shout out to Duke University because, they've been doing this for a while. Wouldn't you say?
Yes, yes. And universities are now admitting at this time that an athlete is far more than a physical one.
Right. There's so much the whole person.
Yes, exactly. And a lot of these athletes, should I correct that?
No,
many of these athletes come from conditions and circumstances where athletics was the way out of where they are.
Absolutely.
Which means there's going to be a lot of mental health issues and far more likely to have traumatic backgrounds.
Right. I was one of them. Yeah.
And the problem is, let's look at the example that's going on with the Olympics right now. So it seems as though you could break your leg and pull out of the Olympics easier than saying my mental health is at risk. I know there was a Russian gymnast I think it was 25 years ago, who had an injury.
I remember that.
She was not prepared to go back. She was forced to go back and compete. And it wasn't just the breaking, all the psychology that went around the break. She wasn't really prepared, and she ended up falling. She became paralyzed and spent the next 20 years of her life paralyzed because mentally she was not ready to go.
Right. Wow.
And here we are in this day and age still having any kind of discussion about why an athlete shouldn't be able to just completely pull themselves out of a situation when they're not ready.
And you think, I know that there's transitions in mindsets and different things. And a lot of that was kept back in my generation. I'm a 52-year-old person. And so it's one of those situations that we didn't quite talk about it. We had to suck it up and be mentally tough. So when these athletes before, they wasn't comfortable coming out. And then on top of not being comfortable coming out and admitting that you needed some help, with your mental health, they also was trained to, hey, listen, when you feel this anxiety and you feel this depression coming on, or you feel all of these different insecurities and all of these different situations that are taking over your mind, you're supposed to be mentally tough. That's part of it. So that's kind of the lines are blurred, so to speak. And that's why I think it's going to be important for, people like yourself, professionals like yourself, and the mental health professionals and the sports psychologists to come together and go, okay. And that's one of the things that we're doing with the Athlete Mental Health Certification Program. We're going to be trying to alert people and keep our eyes and ears open and train people on the floor, on the ground floor, on the front lines to recognize within athletes when something's going on. And then we can make the shift and the recommendation to our provider network, people like yourself, people like, the sports psychologists that we have on the team, the mental health, the behavioral health situation that we have going on. So we recognize it, and then we go ahead and connect with another person or another professional. So that's what our goal is.
Right. And what's really interesting is, so you talk about the mindset of overcoming, that an athlete's just supposed to be strong enough to overcome.
Yeah.
And we keep looking for the answer in our mind, but here's the thing that may shock some of your listeners is 80% of our memories and our emotions are not in our mind. They're actually in our body. And so polyvagal theory was Dr. Stephen Porges, and he proved that 80% of our emotions are coming from our body up the 10th cranial nerve to our mind. So everybody's trying to fix the mind, and that's not actually where the problem is. It's in the body. So memories are stored in the body. When you say you have a gut feeling about something, it is your gut sending a message to your brain with a memory. The problem is a lot of memories don't come back as a memory, they come back as a reaction. And so somebody's brain is being reactive with the same repeat story over and over that creates depression or anxiety or a traumatic memory that they can't seem to overcome. And as we try and just medicate or tough it out, we're finding a lot of that doesn't work. And that's because we need to address where it is in the body, listen to the story that's currently unfolding, and then haunt somebody over and over again mentally.
You cut out, I'm sorry, you cut out on that very last one. And I really wanted to kind of nail down on that point you were making. The very last one, you said, when you feel something coming up, we need to, what now? Do you mind? I'm sorry.
So no, that's okay. But a lot of times when I'm talking, I don't listen to what I'm saying.
That's okay. Hey, listen, you have my full attention, and I'm sure you have all the listeners' attention by now. You're doing wonderful.
It's this is the thing that is shocking. It's on the forefront of mental health right now, and
it is.
And research I'm bringing forward, psychologists don't, and we have a huge paradigm change that's about to happen.
Yes, I agree.
Stories and memories are held in the body, and they are triggering the mind. And so until you deal with the memory that is stored in the body, it is going to re-trigger the mind into an emotional state such as depression or anxiety or a traumatic memory. But what we need to do is find the memory in the body. Listen to the story that is current, change the story that's repeating in the body, or allow it to complete, and then it will stop haunting the mind. That is how mental health works.
Wow. So you have to really be in tune with your body. I guess that now I can see why yoga, especially at the highest level, like you practice and like you teach. And I just want to let everyone know, I mean, it's not just that you're a practitioner and that you, teach a class, you teach teachers. So you're actually at the highest level.
Yeah, I'm the teacher's teacher. I've taught a number of people in my area, and also I teach clinicians and I teach psychologists. They can take a full yoga teacher training from me. So I'm teaching a graduate folks who are helping other people with trauma, and we've had amazing results so far, especially our clinicians that have been around for a long time trying to help people who have these ruminating thoughts, or they can't change their mindset, or positive thinking isn't working, or they've had trauma in their history and they haven't been able to overcome it. They are seeing results from using breath, movement, mindfulness all put together. It's actually bringing people into wholeness.
That's fantastic. And so, I'm not going to get too far into it, but I'm just intrigued now. how do you recognize it? Is it a stiffness in the body? Is it something like in a body part, or how do you recognize where it is in the body? Or does that not even matter, like a particular location?
Well, I'll give you a really quick, I'll give you a quick answer to that, or as quick as I can.
Okay, good. Yeah.
As far as trauma goes, we know, and most of us have experienced trauma by now.
Yeah.
Trauma is just an overwhelming event to the nervous system that you have to shut down part and just keep going.
Yeah.
And 2020 was traumatic for everybody.
Oh, indeed it was.
We always notice that we lose breath, rotation, and voice. Our voice will change, our ability to rotate, and our breathing patterns change. And so when I see somebody walking in a very stiff way, I know that they've been overwhelmed. Now, on an everyday level, if it's just stress and tension, you can see somebody who's defensive. Shoulders go up, head goes forward. That's why they call taking it on the chin. You see somebody with rounded shoulders, is revealing your story all of the time. So when I look at a body, I'm not looking at, the level of handsomeness. I'm looking at a body. I'm looking at a story manifester.
Awesome.
And then once people become attuned to their bodies, they'll know, like sort of a pain in their chest or a crackling in their throat when they go to say something important. They'll notice a pain, be around certain people, or family reunion. Wow, I have a pain in my ass now. There's a reason why.
I was always wondering why all my family's walking around with sore asses all the time, rubbing it every time I'm around.
But I mean, you hear that saying stabbed in the back, and when someone feels stabbed in the back,
I won't do that. I might be a pain in the ass, but I won't do the other. Dang it. I'll never see my family reunions again. That's awesome.
Or you get a gut ache.
Yeah.
You can get ulcer types of things when you're in high stress positions. So in the 1960s, when the first physician said, hey, I think our diet is affecting our body, he was laughed out of this, it's not a workshop, but facilitating something there. And they were like, there's no way that can be. Just a lot of CEOs and CFOs were starting to have irritable bowel syndrome and ulcers and things like that. And somebody said, hey, I think it's stress related. Again, there's no way that stress could do that to your body. Now it's so common for us to understand that.
Right, it is.
We don't question it. The next level of understanding is my body holds the story, and my body is dysregulating my mental health.
So true. Brilliant. It's so intriguing too. I mean, this is amazing. It's almost like, the book of life. We are the book. Someone says, I read you like a book. You've heard that euphemism used before. And now, listening to what you're saying, that's kind of like, wow, that's almost exactly what you're doing. That's fantastic. Okay, so that's the professional side of you. I could probably listen to you forever on that, because it's just so fascinating for me, especially because it's new. I mean, and again, when you think about athlete mental health and you think about what you're proposing and all the different things that's going on in the world right now, it's something new. And when the doctor got laughed out of the room because he was saying, hey, it's in your body, it's kind of like what happens with the mental health issue within the athlete community. At first, when Simone had her situation where she kind of pulled back, and Naomi Osaka, when she pulled back, Michael Phelps, if go back a little further, the one thing that's so difficult about the mental health in general, but especially with athletes, it shocks our system because we're not used to seeing that. And so we go, wow, really? And then two, it's not been talked about. We don't even mention it. So when we see this happening, it's just like, wow, how do you measure it? You can't measure it. I mean, if you can see when you got a broken leg, but I can't see inside of someone's mind. So if you can't measure it, then we as humans tend to go, well, if I can't measure it, if I can't quantitate it, then it really isn't real. How do I know it's real? You know what I mean? And that's the unfair thing for everyone, not just athletes. You know, when you're suffering and you don't have the articulation to be able to explain it, and even if you did, the eyes would glaze over with most people because they don't understand it. And so then they just slough it off to, hey, you know, whatever.
Yeah, and let me help folks understand it. When in your mental health, part of your brain goes offline.
I'm sorry, you cut out just that last sentence. Go ahead.
Yeah. So when you're having disruptions in mental health, part of your brain actually goes offline. So for these athletes, it's exceptionally dangerous.
Oh, yeah.
To feel that dysregulation and keep going physically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Literally
Totally makes sense.
And when I grew up, you know, I'm 55. I came from the era where you don't tell people you're depressed.
No.
You don't tell people you're taking a pill for depression.
No. That's not in the discussion.
Tom Cruise was on talking about Brooke Shields having postpartum depression. And his thing was, she's not mentally tough enough. I mean, he gave her some smackdown, and a number of women finally came forward and said, there is a chemical reason why people go through this. This isn't just toughness. So when we talk about mental health and the physicality of it, your body goes through a chemicalization clarity in our minds. So
again, I'm sorry, the last sentence. You're doing great. You're doing fantastic. It's that last sentence. If you could repeat that.
I don't know what the last sentence was.
You know, when your body, the physicality in your body goes through, okay.
Your body goes through a chemicalization, and that chemicalization regulates the mind. So again, it's the body's chemistry, it's the body's memory, it's the body's debris that causes regulation. So you don't have access to all of the areas of your brain, the right and the left. You get stuck in that limbic system, which goes into fight or flight, and you don't think rationally.
So true. The croc brain, as they say, you know. Yeah, that's so interesting. Okay, so I'm going to skip over. I mean, again, I'm going to skip over to, as you as an athlete in the mental health side of things, what was the toughest challenge that you've ever faced personally as an athlete, mentally?
It was chronic fatigue. So I was going through, I was racing. The first thing that showed up is I had a gluten intolerance, and this was way before anybody had ever even heard the word gluten. Yeah. And so they did a bunch of tests on me, and they said, you have celiac disease. Oh, and I mean, nobody had heard of this, and all the food that was built around it tasted like cardboard. I mean, right now I could eat a cupcake that's amazing.
Oreo cookies.
So I got off the gluten, and I'm like, okay, I'm better. I don't have that foggy thinking. I'm not going through depression cycles. And then I started into this chronic fatigue that I was the sickest healthy person that I knew. And I was like, I do not know what is going on. Well, now I understand this 10th cranial nerve. It splits into two. It's called the vagus nerve. One comes down in front of our heart and back up to our face. Okay. And it's our social regulator. Okay. And the other one comes into the back. A lot of times, folks who've had trauma in their childhood, the memories get stuck somewhere in there, and it's the freeze response. So it's freeze or feign death on the nervous system, kind of like fainting goats. So in my fight, flight, freeze, I was stuck in freeze, which looks like chronic fatigue.
It's fascinating.
Yeah.
You know, I asked you what your toughest mental health challenge was, and you know, like an expert, you go straight back to, it was a physical thing, chronic fatigue, because it was stored in your body. Beautiful. Wow. Amazing. That's such an interesting point of view.
I would be like, how can I want to be so happy, so healthy, so vibrant, and I'm stuck in some cycle that I can't figure out?
Wow.
And so it started in my body. I had not put all this together until the last few years, but
Okay.
that cycle is really what mentally and emotionally just, it was so frustrating.
Yeah, I bet it would be. Yeah, because you don't know the answer to it. Yeah.
Right.
And so if you don't mind, how did you get out of that? I mean,
Antidepressant.
okay. And so that just kind of, did it take you to a
Yeah. So
place
that was, yeah,
mentally or?
I started with something's wrong. They were like, we have depression, and depression will cause all these symptoms in your body. And I was like, sounds right to me, but I'm not a depressed person. But yes, I present with all of these things, and
Hmm.
tried it for like a month. I just did not feel like myself. I was like, this cannot be the answer.
Right.
And went through a series of a few years of just literally suffering and
Yeah.
reading the
Sorry.
next book, and how do I just like really toughed it out, right? In the trenches. I'm your girl in the trenches. I can tough it
All
out,
right.
right?
All right.
And
Smart
then,
people in the trenches.
yeah. And then I found yoga, and
Right.
yoga started clearing up a lot of stuff for me, but yoga
Interesting.
heals trauma. So I started using yoga and got into meditation, and that's how I started overcoming it. But it wasn't until I was through it that I found out the answer of why what I did worked.
Fantastic. That's fascinating. You have a lot to teach a lot of people, and you're going to make a difference. You're already making a difference in the world, but you certainly made a difference already to me. All right. So in terms of how did you told me basically how you defeated that challenge. And so what advice, I mean, I can get a general idea, but what advice would you give someone who's suffering from kind of the same thing that you went through? What advice, if there's your doppelganger out there, what would you say to them?
The first thing that they need to do is to address the body, not in a way that's beat up, not energy through your body to get the clarity mentally. So you start just clearing some of the memories out of you. I would say also having a meditation practice was really important to me.
Yeah.
But there are some forms of meditation, again, this is new research, but some forms of meditation can make people disassociate. So if you have
Right.
a really hard time meditating, you may
Yeah.
need to do a guided meditation. You may need to move your fingers a little bit. You may even need to start with a walking mindfulness. But
Yeah.
anything to calm down and get out of that fight, flight, or freeze system. When it's kind of calm, you have access to lots of areas in your brain that you normally don't.
Right. Interesting. So there's a lot of great apps out there now too. So, that wasn't around when we were growing up. I mean, you didn't have that app, so there's so many great apps out there for the meditation side of it. So, and now we're going to skip in. And so tell us what your daily mental health, mental fitness routine is. I know we all have physical routines to keep you mentally at the peak shape. What's yours?
100% is meditation. I wake up
100%.
and meditate. And that was not an easy thing to do. My meditation
It's
used to
so
look
hard
like,
for me. I'm like, what? There you go. What is that? Huh?
I know,
What is that?
I would like fall back asleep.
should
But
should I should I have 20 screens opened at once?
yeah, I would wake up laying on the floor with my meditation cushion next to me and be like, damn it, I did it again. No,
Yeah.
and all my emails before I check my texts,
Yeah.
before I do any of that.
Nice.
And the way that I started a meditation practice in the morning is I got a nice chair that had sort of a backing, but kind of rounded to
Yeah.
tuck me in so I couldn't
Yeah.
fall
That's
asleep.
funny.
And I would just start with a few minutes in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Think about my whole body just feeling clear and clean. And so instead of letting my outer world run my day,
Right.
like, oh, this email, opening up social media or whatever,
Right.
I
Right.
actually was like, I'm starting with me. And if I can't come from my own energy,
Right.
I cannot run my day the way that I want it to run. So sometimes I would choose an energy to be in for the day.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I would wake up and I'd think, okay, I'm
Hmm.
gonna need some tenaciousness today. What does that feel like in my body?
Whoa.
Or I need some endurance. And I just envision it.
Fantastic
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
I like that. I'm going to choose an energy. You know what? Everything
I
could,
was like, I
yeah,
want to be, choose an energy.
that's,
Yeah.
I love that. Choose an
Your
energy.
your brain does not know the difference between you imagining something and it actually happening. That's why Einstein said imagination is more important than knowledge. So if I told you a story about green snakes
Yeah.
and you go outside your house and your garden hose is wrapped up and you almost step on it, your body's going to flood you like you almost stepped on a green snake.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, interesting. That's
Actually,
so
it does
funny.
not know the difference. So if you envision a certain energy
Right.
and you feel it in your body, your brain doesn't know that it's not happening.
Okay, folks, I'm getting a free yoga class right now, so we're going to take a break. That'd be funny. Okay, so that's amazing. I love that. Good stuff. Start with you. You choose your energy for the day, and and you walk within that realm, and that's beautiful. That's pretty deep too. I mean, that's amazing. When my mind goes to these, your brain doesn't know the difference between imagination and reality. Look at the video games. Look at the virtual worlds. Look at all of that.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? There was this virtual platform, Second Life. I don't know if anybody knows about what that was. That came out a few years ago. I think it was from Silicon Valley, but it's that 3D virtual worlds. I think now pretty much all the video games have interactive with, role play, and you can play with it. And everybody's like, well, why are these people always online and all this stuff? And I just said, listen, it's real to them. When they're that character, they spend that time creating this avatar that's walking around in these virtual worlds, and you think they're on a video game just playing. No, they're not. They've brought themselves and transposed themselves within that body of that avatar, and they're there. They literally feel it. You know what I mean?
And if they're online, they're actually
In the cyberverse.
They're in the friendship zone.
Yeah.
And that's the most important thing. People are
Yeah.
really having a hard time feeling connected to others. And it's one of the things that we crave as human beings is that sense.
Yeah, you're right.
If they can go into that world and they feel like they have friends and they get immersed in that world, it is real.
It is,
They are
absolutely
chemicalizing their body the same as though it's happening with their friends. Yes.
Amen on that. Okay, so I'm going to wrap this up with this question. I always ask everybody, most intellectual people have a little bit of quirkiness. You're certainly an intellectual. So what's the one thing about you that your students, your classmates, your workout buddies, if they knew about you, they would look at you and go, Corena, come on. What's that guilty pleasure? What's that quirk that you kind of try to hide? You may not. I mean, you're so, open, you might not even hide something.
I don't hide it, but I have a Harley.
Oh, nice. All right. Harley Davidson. That's pretty cool.
And
I wouldn't have thought that either.
It's my thing and I love it. And I grew up on motorcycles and
okay, cool. I
get on that and I, feel like my inner badass gets to come out for a moment. And then I put that away and I be the yoga trauma girl again.
That inner badass. I can just see you kind of getting ready when you put that leather on, just going, okay, now, and you just shift into the the female Terminator. That's awesome. Okay, folks, that's it. Corena, thank you for taking the time to come on here and kind of share with us. Wow, it was so much more than I even expected, but a lot of people are going to get fed when they watch this video. And please, let's stay in touch. I know that there's so much that you can offer the athlete community that we're going to be touching, and so I just look forward to collaborating with you in the future. Okay.
Me too. Thanks so much, Danny.
Awesome. Okay. Well, that's it, folks. Have a great day and keep in tune for the next one. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.